Welcome to Agents Uncovered, where we dive beneath the surface of the agent and learn about their journey, hurdles, and insights. Spoken directly from real estate agents that we can all relate with. We don't focus on the top 1% like every other industry podcast. Instead, we're here to deliver insightful content that we can all relate to and get value from. Whether you're new to the industry, pursuing a passion, or have recently embarked on your journey within real estate, Agents Uncovered will undoubtedly inform, educate, and entertain. Subscribe now and follow Real Estate Training Australia for more content.
Welcome to Agents Uncovered. Today we'll be speaking with Ash Witty from Harcourts BMG. Ash joined the industry in 2017 and focuses primarily on the southern Gold Coast Tweed River region. Licensed in both New South Wales and Queensland, Ash will tell us how he navigates both legislations and how he leans on his decade-long marketing career to better service his clients. Righto, you comfortable?
I'm very comfortable.
You're locked in?
I am locked in.
Welcome, Ash.
This is my safe space.
This is Ash's. Well, I'm sorry to intrude on your safe space. Mate, thank you so much for today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's get into the genesis of the Ash Witty real estate story. How did that come about?
I think the short version is I was coming off the back of a media career, which I loved. You got great autonomy and there's great experiences in there. But I was working away so much. And with a young family, then I started to think about doing something a little bit more homely. And I got into a bit of business consulting. Now, the irony about business consulting is that you're helping people that aren't doing so well. So getting paid was probably the hard part. And I actually worked with some real estate agencies and I found an opening in regards to the level of sales and marketing that's out there in the corporate world versus what was actually being executed in real estate. And because of the significance in the transaction of real estate, I thought this is a great opportunity to bring that corporate market in here. Had an interview with Ben because Claire,
Ben Gazelle from Harcourts
yeah.
BMG, so yes.
And my wife Claire was doing the marketing for BMG at the time.
Yep.
They weren't in Harcourts. And I sat down and in typical Ben form, I was going through my monologue. And I'd say within about 15 minutes, he probably switched off. So I'm going about another 20 minutes, right?
I'd say 5.
Yeah. And then he said,
sorry, Ben.
He said, okay, as he does, park that aside. I think you should become a real estate agent. And I said, I don't want to become a real estate agent because of all the stereotypes and the stigma that's around it. And he said, you can succeed in this industry by being honest. I went away. I still thought he was full of it. And then talking to Claire and spending time with that team socially and everything like that, I did accept that there's some good people in there. Came in underneath him for probably about 6 months to a year.
Yep.
And then he let me go do my own thing. And then here I am now.
So that transition into real estate was as a sales agent, rookie PA. What shape did that look like?
I think they call it now like a sales associate.
Yep.
So Ben would have been the listing agent, and then I would have been there to service him and his buyers and produce reports and things like that.
Client interaction, phone calls, buyer inspections.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was also then giving me the training to do the callbacks and to how to service buyers and everything like that. So that was really good experience because I already knew how to sell.
Yep.
I just didn't know real estate.
How to apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that he was able to do all the top line stuff and then I was able to do the grind, you know, as you say, the callbacks, the negotiations and stuff like that. So Ben's success in the luxury, area, that really sort of helped me get a great foothold in that here. And then having that kind of position also enabled me to see the things and the gaps in the market as well. I didn't have the pressure of having to go get a listing or to have to negotiate the sale or anything like that. I was able to sort of see it.
You were in the marketplace already.
Very much.
Yeah.
And I could see the openings too.
Yeah.
I could see what other agents weren't doing. I could see what we weren't doing as well to a degree.
Yeah.
And so I was able to take the best of that experience and then also take the best of what I know and try and apply it then on after.
So what was the catalyst for going out on your own? At what point did you recognise that you were ready? Or did Ben push you out?
He pushed me. Yeah, straight out of the nest. I remember the conversation, as he does, no warning, right? I was sitting there in the office, and he said along the lines of, so I think you're just going to go out on your own now. I'm happy to bring you in on ones there that I feel as though that you could help me out, but I think you're just ready. And that was as far as it probably went.
And in hindsight, were you ready?
No, but it's like having kids. You're
Yes.
never ready, right? Like, you can do as much preparation as you possibly want.
Oh, yeah.
But when that baby's born,
Yeah.
you look at yourself and you go, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
But you work with it. And so in hindsight,
Yeah.
I was ready. At the time, I didn't feel ready, no.
The transition from going from Ben to standalone agent, had you built your own client list at that point, or did you have to go about building one yourself?
Yeah, I had to go about building one myself. What I had always seen success in any career in which I had was just to do things a bit differently.
Yep.
So what I worked out was that there was so much emphasis on working for the seller, which is true. But I'd realized to work for the seller, you have to service their buyers. So I just serviced the hell out of buyers. If I couldn't find what they wanted, I'd talk to another agent. I would give them good information and advice as to how to purchase and things like that. That was my catalyst for creating my own list.
Yep.
Because although that purchaser didn't buy anything from me, their next door neighbor was selling in the next 6 months. They had a good experience from me. I got the referrals. That's how my career started.
Buyers become sellers, become buyers, become sellers.
Very much.
So you got in onto the buyer side of things, and you identified, okay, once they've purchased, then I can service them better than what the agent that they purchased through.
Yep.
And then when it comes time to sell, they're going to come back to me.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time there, they hadn't even bought something by that stage.
Yep.
So they were coming to me to have a look for a property to purchase.
Yep.
They hadn't yet sold, as about 90% of people can do. And then when it came time to sell, then I was there.
Yep.
And obviously I did the research. I found out where they were, and I sent them through the introduction packs, and I followed them up. But one thing I didn't want to do was get the prospecting list of near neighbours and ring them up to say that I've done an appraisal in the street and would you like a free one? I went the total opposite. You know, I didn't want to be that person. I just wanted to service them. If you've got any advice in the market, whether it be buying or selling, I'll send you through my details.
Yep.
And then you give me a call when you're ready.
So it's almost a form of advocacy.
Yeah.
Those buyers or those people that you were interacting with were being a spokesperson for your business and help growing your name. I mean, I've heard the analogy of controlling the fireside chat or the barbecue chat. You know, the conversation that a buyer or a seller is having when you're not present.
Yeah.
And that's very much in line with, you know, your model is that, you know, you serviced that particular client so well that when they were at the barbecue and they were talking about agents, your name would have obviously come up.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of my business now are from people that I'd spoken to years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it wasn't just about servicing them. I think sometimes people need or want to have that honest conversation. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the reason why that property sold for $2.2 million for X, Y, and Z, the next one that you're going to be looking for, you just have to realize that you've got to be the best offer on the table at the time. That's why you missed out. So if you've got a price there that you feel as though is a little bit more than what you would pay, it's probably about right.
Yep.
And then they take that away 2-3 years later. They go, that's the person I want to deal with. The only one that gave me the honest conversation at that time.
So it's interesting you say about that. So at what point did you feel that you'd earned the right to have that conversation?
I've probably always been slightly too honest.
Yep.
You know, I've probably gone a little bit better in putting a bit of a filter on things.
Yep.
But when you work in that corporate world of sales and marketing, they can see through the BS so clearly that you can't do anything but give the truth. And one of the great lines that, again, Ben Gazelle talks about is you can't lose with the truth. So whatever the truth is inside your mind, have that conversation with confidence and know that it's coming from a good place. It might not necessarily be what the recipient wants to receive, but it's the right thing to do.
And that, put a pin in that because we're going to come back to that one. There's a question that I actually want to touch base on that. So looking at that progression to, we're now year 6.
Yeah, year 6.
So the growth of your client list, I don't like to use the word database. I
Yep.
think it's overused and I think
Yep.
it's used incorrectly. So looking at your client list now and servicing your client list now, how many clients would you service on a regular basis? What's the size of that?
I don't tend to do too much of that 8 touch points a year or
Right.
anything like that.
Yep.
You know, I've probably got circa 1,500 there in a very wide scope that I at least have touch points with.
Yep.
But I would say in terms of actually getting into the nitty gritty, what I would sort of call my VIPs, like they're my really close knit group. And they're genuinely, I could go to a barbecue with
Yep.
them, or I could see them down the street and we could sit down and have a coffee.
Yep.
That's probably only about 500 at the most. And I don't have a trail, as I think, you know, we call
Action
it,
plan.
action plan or
Yeah.
anything like that. I'll talk to people when it's relevant to talk to people. I don't touch base. You know, I don't do that sort of thing. If there is a reason to call, I'll call. Whether it be, you know, Christmas and Easter and all those other bits and pieces and anniversaries, yes, there's a reason there.
Yep.
But I'm touching base with them genuinely because I feel as though that we should be touching base, not because I'm planting the seed for their sale in 7 years' time. That's where I felt as though that I wanted to do things differently.
So more like a friendship, hey, I just want to check in on you, rather than from a business perspective, hey, what's real estate looking like for you in the next 3, 6, 12 months?
Absolutely.
I mean,
That
you're the
definitely.
former.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, mate, the surf's been great. Be great to catch up. Let's go and catch a wave, or, you know, what are you up to? What's this? What's that?
Yeah.
Or I drove past and the place is looking great. I just, you know, remember that conversation we had about colours. I see you've taken that on board. It's organic.
It's exactly
Yeah.
organic. You know, someone will take the ski out into the Tweed and I notice there's a lot of logs around. The first thing I think about is the people that purchase a property from Old Ferry Road and just worried about them barefoot skiing and then coming across one of those logs.
Yeah.
Just a quick text to say that just beware, there's a few logs out in
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
you know, if you're going to go and do your skiing. That's just organic. I would do that whether it be my mate Greg or Cal or a client that I'd sold to 2 or 3 years ago. It's just whatever comes in organically should just come out.
So the leap from sales associate to standalone agent to where you are now, as, you know, comfortably doing 30 to 60 deals a year, and, you know, having the ability that if you want to push yourself to go a bit higher further, was it a conscious effort on your part once you had started real estate? What did that look like for you to go, okay, I can make a career out of this and I can push?
Yeah, I think once you start to see the results coming in, and when I talk about results, I'm not talking about commissions and GCIs and stuff like that. I'm seeing that you genuinely have the skill to help people, whether that be in desperate need or whether they're just looking for a great result or whatever it might be. To actually see those results ticking over, then you start to go, okay, well, I know what I can do at the front end. I just got to refine the back end now. So I can do more of this. So I can do it. I just need to work out how to do more of it. And that's probably where it's gone from being a standalone agent to where I am now, is working out that part.
Scale.
Very much.
We had an interview with an agent and he referred to his transition as being interested in real estate to all in. And there was a catalyst moment to, you know, he'd worked for a period of time where he was interested in real estate.
Yeah.
To he realised he needed to be all in. And it's very much like that for you, I guess, that, you know, that transitional period of, okay, I need to create the back end. I need to get my systems right if I'm going to actually make a career out of this.
Very much. So my motivation was always been helping people.
Yep.
So I had the skills to be able to help people, and that was always within my nature. So you start to sort of get off a little bit on helping people, especially at a transaction as important as this.
Yeah.
And it even goes so much to those buyer conversations that we're having. It's helping people. So it's like this little fix that you get. And all the rest of the financial success comes as a byproduct of helping people. So if you can help more people, you feel better, the rest just takes care of itself. So you just got to work out, how can I help more people? How can I get that scale up through systems and processes? How can I help 100 people transact on property every single year.
Is that the goal?
I don't necessarily think that's the goal.
Right.
I think for me, it's to ensure that what I'm currently doing, I'm doing it well.
Yep.
So if I can fix that up by 5%, this bit here will go 5%. I don't want to push too hard that I'm then not doing as well in helping people today.
So the service plan, for want of a better term, rules everything.
Everything.
The outcome has got to be, not all business is good business, and so therefore we've got to recognise that perhaps it's not in your best interest to do X, Y, Z, because in the long run it's not good business.
100%.
And having the courage and fortitude to actually say that. So when you've identified an opportunity, what does your preparation look like for that?
As in, like, you identify that someone is looking to sell?
Yep.
Probably the first thing that I would do is just have some sort of meaningful conversation with that person, which does two things.
Yep.
It allows me to see whether I think that we can actually work together, and also whether I think that my skill set would be suited towards that particular person. So whether I genuinely believe that my past experiences and the way in which I service it is going to be the best thing for that.
Yep.
And then, as you say, it's the one that John West rejects that makes John West the best, right? Sometimes you have to have an honest conversation and say, property in Burleigh, that's not for me. There are plenty of other agents out there that are going to do that better than I can do.
Yep.
So I'll refer you on through to someone else. Having that genuinity, they will buy something in my area and then they'll eventually sell through me. But having that honest conversation that's what makes it, that's, I think, what you can cut into what you're good at genuinely, not just chasing the dollar, the rest will just end up following.
So your patch, which sort of leads us into the next sort of topic, you have a patch, you have an area that you try and define?
Not necessarily.
So it's client-based?
It is client-based. Look, geographically speaking, I have to know the area, all right? So I don't go over two bridges, right? So I'm happy to go into Palmy, but I'm not going into Burleigh.
Yep.
Okay? I'm happy to go into Kingscliff, Casuarina,
Yep.
but very rarely would I ever go into North End of Byron.
Yep.
Okay? On occasion I might for something quite special. So that's only because I know the areas.
Yep.
Not only do you know the comparative sales and things like that, but you know what infrastructure projects are there, and you know what the government is, and you know what the council regulations are, and there's a whole number of things. You just know that area. Then I probably hone in on the type of properties that I think that I would be well suited towards. What is my skill set going to work best at? 2-bedroom apartment on Kennedy Drive, Tweed Heads West.
Yep.
I am not the best person for that. That's high volume churn and burn, and that's not the way that I do business. Yeah. Something that's really quite unique in the Coolangatta area or up at a Terranora acreage that's going to take a lot more time, effort and energy to be able to find the one buyer willing to pay more than everyone else. That's where I do my best work, and that's what gets me excited.
So there's two follow-ups to that I want to ask. The different languages that you have to speak, being licensed in 2 different states, 2 different sets of compliance, and the impact that has on your business and mindset, jumping from one to the other, because they're different languages, aren't they?
To a degree. I sort of see it as a mechanic that works on Toyota and Mazda. Like, there are similarities, but there are small differences.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you're following the same type of principles, that might be slightly different, but you just got to know whether it's Toyota or Mazda. And it's no different to Queensland, New South Wales. They're relatively the same rules and relatively the same processes. You just got to sort of know, what's unique to each of those areas.
Timing, obviously, with New South Wales and we mentioned about getting a property prepared for listing. Obviously the contract first and the timing, that's obviously a different process, but obviously just working out what's your schedule?
Yeah, not necessarily. So even in Queensland there, I want to have the contract completed and ready as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that is 100% before it even goes to market. I don't want to take it to market and then read the contract. And I need to have a conversation with someone about a special levy coming up in the building that we need to be aware of. So To a degree it is, but the only difference is whether I ask for the solicitor for the contract in New South Wales or whether we prepare the contract in Queensland. They're both going to arrive about 3 or 4 days after we request them anyway.
Yeah.
So not too much different.
So learnings from both states sort of apply, you know, taking the learnings from New South Wales, applying them to Queensland and slowing the contract and slowing the process down, and then sort of certain processes from Queensland, applying them to the New South Wales compliance. Yeah.
And I think also one of the advantages that we have as a border agent is that we can really elevate ourselves with a really intricate knowledge of both contracts. Because if you're selling in New South Wales but buying in Queensland, it seems quite different. So how do you usher someone through that process? You know, that's where you can actually, you know, really
Separate
be well
yourself.
known. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you do in New South Wales, but this is what they do in Queensland. So what we need to be aware of is this, 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 and this. You know, we'll just be conscious of them. It's not a concern. We just have to be conscious of those different dealings.
And so that's once again to your part of service.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've already highlighted that you're intimate with projects, your understanding of contractual obligations and compliance. You know, it seems to me that there's always a need to know, and you're willing to actually go and learn. So that transitional period, sort of, sorry to jump and cut, but that transitional period from a rookie agent, sales agent to standalone agent to fully licensed, the learnings that you did, were they learnings that you actively went and sourced yourself because you were interested in them, or were they sort of forced upon you because of the industry? You seem to be a fairly curious agent, and that you want to know and that you'll go look for things off your own bat. The training that you've taken, was it easy to come by? Did you find it easy to assimilate and learn, or are there things that you would change in hindsight?
I think there were things there that I actively went out and did, because there was a certain
There's a
level.
lot of questions here, I'm sorry.
No, it's good, it's good. I like it. There were certain things there that I was conscious of, because the level of service that I wanted to provide, I didn't want to be the agent that said, I'm not sure, I'll get back to you.
Yep.
I just didn't want to be that person. You can't know everything. That part I get. But I wanted to know as much as what would be expected at that level. So there were some specific real estate things there that I really went out to when they changing up of the contracts. And I've always been very open to learning. And there's only 2 ways to learn. Someone tells you how to do it, or you stuff up, make a mistake, and you don't do it again. And normally, if someone tells you how to do it, it's because they've stuffed up before. Yeah. So I'm open. You know, I absorb everything from everyone. I'll ring a solicitor and ask them, what does this mean? Yep. Why did they include this in the most updated REIQ contracts? Yep. And then they can explain it to me. So having a good knowledge of that purely came because I want to provide that level of service. So you've got to find the information and training. What was surprising to me is the things that people don't talk about that you should really work on. And a part of that is, I don't like to use the broad term, you know, your mental aptitude there. But the reality is when you are dealing in real estate, most people don't want to sell. They need to sell. Yep. Right? There's a real need there, and there's an emotional attachment, and there's a heightened emotion that comes with that. And that the real estate agent is the one person in between both those. Someone wanting to get this for these reasons and someone wanting to buy that for those reasons. And there's a whole number of things on the outside of that are coming into it. And you are the one person in between that is copying the entire lot. All right?
You've got to be the steady one.
You're like the tennis net, right? You're just copying it. No one even knows you're there. And to take all of that on board was definitely a surprise. So I actually went through and worked out and read books, you know, about how to compartmentalize that information and quieten the inner voice. Yep. And to stop that, you know, imposter syndrome and that you can get. That's been the most amount of learning that I've had to do. And
was that early on, or was that as you progressed? What
that would have been right in that transition. Yep. Between just being an independent sales agent and then that next level, because once you're starting to do 30 plus transactions,
volume,
that's 60 individuals or 60 groups that are going through that heightened emotion, you still have to come home to your family and be a father and a husband and a friend.
Yep.
You can't sit there and carry that baggage.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me to try and work out. There's no training for that, right? There's no real estate manual to tell you
How do we manage
this is
that?
what
How do you
you're going to
navigate that?
cop,
Yeah.
and this is what you need to do to just get by without drinking a bottle of whiskey every night. Right?
We all know that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming Ben, as a mentor, played a role in some of this. There was the ability to actually bounce off, hey, I'm finding this, I'm seeing this, and obviously there would have been some franchise training around, what to do in this situation, how to navigate that situation. But something as heady as that, it's a personal journey. Where do you see that the real estate industry could be better served through that? What could they implement?
I like what New South Wales are doing now, in that to become a licensed agent there, you have to become almost like an understudy, for lack of a better term, to a licensed agent, almost like under an apprenticeship scheme. I really like that. I would love to see Queensland do the same thing, because that way you can have the opportunity to sit in an agent's pocket and you can learn from them. And if you don't like what they do, you move on to another agent that will do that as well. So then I think you can start to take on not only what they do professionally, but also how they do what they do personally as well. I had that advantage through Ben. So I could see most of that. It's only once I got into my own office that I started to go, whoa, I feel a little bit on my own here. I can't just bounce my stuff off him anymore. I'm going to have to deal with a bit of this myself. I still bounce off him, but most of it I have to work out, and have to work out a way to get through it by myself.
So you're running a team, for want of a better term, which is you and Claire, husband and wife.
Yep.
You have run in the past a buyer's agent.
Yep.
Is that something in the future that you will look to expand your team, or are you comfortable with your current setup?
I would like to expand my team, but mainly from a back-end support.
Yep.
We've got, through the Harcourts BMG office, we've got some amazing stuff back there. There's probably still areas there that I don't necessarily need to be actively involved in. And horses for courses, right? If someone is a better, editor or a script writer or whatever it might be, then let them do it.
Yep.
I like the idea that I am still the single point of contact for buyers and sellers and solicitors and building and pest inspectors and brokers. I like that. I like being right in the middle of it at any given time, because communication service is just paramount to me. And I feel as though that I am the best person for that. All the other bits and pieces there, if I can have someone else that would sort that out better than I could, definitely. So short answer is I am looking for someone, but I'm happy with what I've got as well.
The separator that you've got in the marketplace, and probably rolling back to your marketing. So would you say that your marketing is your separator? And I'll probably follow that up with, in talking with you, it seems specious, because I think your service and your ability to actually understand clients is actually your separator. But it's a bit of a chicken and the egg, that if people don't know about you, how are they going to find out about you? So, marketing does play a role in that. And, we're in a fairly competitive little bubble down here in the southern end of the Gold Coast. Your marketing does stand out, and your background in it must play a role in that.
I thought it would play more of a role than it does. I thought that my understanding of marketing, and marketing is merely just the communication of a message to a market, right? That's its generalized term. And I thought that I would come in and just wipe the board with that. But what was surprising was that individuals' understanding of what marketing is, I can't talk about terms like, targeted audiences and key selling points and
verbiage just goes out the window.
Pixels. And follow it, just all of that just goes straight over the top. So as a default, I had to rely on the service and understanding and the genuinity and the connection. So yes, marketing has played a part, but nowhere near as much as I wanted it to. The biggest part has definitely been that connection and understanding that you spoke about before.
I've asked this question of other agents, and I think I know the answer from you, but in a competitive marketplace, how do you maintain your moral compass?
I love competition.
Yep.
I love it. The reason why we watch footy and why we watch, MasterChef and, all that is because competition brings out the best in everyone. It's like, diamonds are made under pressure.
Yep.
I think competition is, it's imperative to be able to get the best out of everyone. It keeps everyone constantly accountable. That's why we read through contracts and ensure that we understand them to their absolute fullest. And that's why we get back to every single buyer. And that's why we ensure that our owners are serviced as best as possible with daily communication and everything like that. There is this competition there that I want to do better than everyone else. Otherwise, I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
So I love competition. I think it's fantastic. If I see another agent get a property that I really want, I look inwards and I would say, well, what can I do better to get that? Because I know I can help them. I know that I'm great once I've got it. How can I improve myself? And quite often, this is what I like about our little local area, is if I see another agent get a really great property and it's marketed well, I'll shoot them through a text. Crushed it. That's amazing.
Yep.
If they get a great result. If their buyer buys at their auction and doesn't buy at mine.
Yeah.
I love that, it's like after the football game where everyone's shaking hands.
Yep.
You can cop grenades there, Monday to Friday, but you still got to hold your head high and you still got to shake their hand in the street. And that's what I love about, my position. Whereas I think some other agents, maybe before my time, there probably was a lot of that.
Argy-bargy?
Yeah,
mine.
yeah.
It's my client.
I didn't feel like I had that. I don't feel like I've got that. Agents there that people won't deal with, I don't mind dealing with them. They seem to be okay. They probably stab me in the back, until I know about it, I don't know any better.
Exactly right. What other people say about me is none of my business.
Don't worry me.
Yeah. Mate, I don't want to keep you all day because I know you're flat out. 3 pieces of wisdom that you would pass on to a new to industry or a rookie agent?
In any given order?
I don't mind.
Any given order. The very number one I would say is to don't do it for the money. Okay? Don't do it for the commissions and the big watches, which don't have anything like that. Yeah. Any of that side of success is a byproduct of something else, whether it be you love real estate or you want to provide for your family or you love helping people. I think that the remuneration is just a byproduct of the work in which you do. Whereas I've seen people get frustrated and not get to their success level because they're too concerned about getting paid. You've got to do the work and their pay is the byproduct from someone. That's definitely the big one. Number 2 is what I spoke about earlier with just being able to handle the emotional toll that it comes with real estate. You are in someone's house. There is a death, there is divorce, they can't live there anymore because of their age. It's heartbreaking to see that stuff, and you have to take all of that on board and then to get there with a big smile on your face and present. And, sometimes it can be a bit of an act. If you know what they're going through versus what you are portraying, you're just trying to protect them and their vulnerability from what's out there. So taking on that's definitely important. And then lastly, I'd probably say that I would encourage anyone that real estate be one of the last career choices as opposed to one of the first. I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I came from marketing, so I already had this lead in to this industry to a degree. Whereas I find that there's some people and agents that, they're second, third generation real estate agent families. They've never had another job. They've never been out there and had the accountability of working for someone else or something like that. And so I think they come in here without that. They'll never fail. And I think that's a real danger to them and to the people in which they're representing. If you've worked for small business before that's not yours, you understand that vulnerability and that risk that if you make a mistake, you can ruin someone's life. So I think having that level of responsibility helps. So coming from other industries and other areas there, and you work there for 10, 20 years and then get into real estate, I think you'll know what you need to know to succeed, because it's not just about selling. It's not just about understanding houses or reading contracts or reading people or, working late and having a great work ethic. It's all of it. Unless you've got every one of those parts well serviced, if you've got one area that you are failing in, if you can't get your filing system sorted out, the whole thing can unravel. So I would say do it later in life than trying to do it earlier.
That's great advice. There's several key things that I took from today, and with your permission, I'd love perhaps in the future we'll come back and we'll target some of that. But mate, really appreciate today.
Hey, my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
It was good. I learned a bit about myself as well.
There you go. I'll see you next time.